Man, if I'd known I had to read today, I would have picked lots shorter stuff and lots easier. I'm out of breath. I don't know if I have any energy to do the sermon. Okay, well, let's get started. Today is Epiphany Sunday. And actually, Epiphany is falling on Sunday this year, January 6th. Epiphany means manifestation or appearance. We celebrate Epiphany as the manifestation of God through Christ to the world. There are, almost every religion has epiphanies of the deity. In Jewish history, you could argue that the burning bush was an epiphany of God to Moses. The Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai was an epiphany of God to Moses. God manifests, God appears. When I think of the importance of Epiphany, Epiphany is about telling us what God's intentions are. What does God want to do with humanity? What is the point of the world? Sometimes we don't need God to have an epiphany. You might be sitting in a meeting, you might be sitting in the dark, not knowing what to do, and somebody has an epiphany. The light comes on and we suddenly know what we want to do, we know the direction we want to take. Epiphanies are not uncommon in our existence. They do give us meaning, they do give us direction. It's when the light bulb comes on. So in the reading from Ephesians that seem to go on and on and on, Paul is referring to the Epiphany, where God has appeared to him, God has appeared to the world in Christ, and the wall between people, particularly the Gentiles and the Jews, has been broken down. And we learn that God's intention for humanity is for God to share God's blessing, God's spirit, God's riches, God's life with all people. It isn't just for a select few, but God's intention is that all people have God's life and God's light. So it's a big deal. Epiphany will come usually in the darkness. People will be sitting in the dark waiting for the light. In this reading from Isaiah, it talks about the people are in darkness and great darkness has covered the earth. Well, the darkness for the Jews when Isaiah was written was that they had come back from captivity and they were trying to rebuild Jerusalem. They were trying to rebuild Israel, and it wasn't going very well. They weren't getting cooperation from the people. They were getting opposition from the people who were living in the land. They didn't have the resources to rebuild the temple, to rebuild the city. They just felt like they were in the dark. And we often feel like we're in the dark. We can talk about, being in the dark economically, being in the dark in terms of our spirits. We just feel low, depressed, discouraged. We're in the dark. Countries can be in the dark. They don't feel like they're going anywhere. They don't have any hope. And darkness covers the earth. Darkness covers our lives. And we look for an epiphany, for the light to come on so that we can see. So Isaiah then moves from thick darkness covering the earth, where we're hopeless, to your light has come. The light shines in a small place, but we see the light and we know that it's not all darkness in our lives. It's not all discouraged. It's not all hopeless. That light has shined and we can see light at the end of the tunnel. We can see our way a little bit, maybe a step at a time. And that light in the darkness, your light has come, Isaiah says, gives us hope. Paul says to the Gentiles, your light has come. The walls are down. Sometimes I'll go into our basement at night without turning on the light. I know why I do that. It's because I'm cheap. And it probably would cost a penny of electricity for me to turn on the light. But I'll go down to the basement in the light because I think I know where everything is in the basement and I don't need the light. And I'll walk into the basement and I'll stumble into things and trip over things and stub my toes. And the further I go from the stairs, the darker it gets. And it's obvious. When I turn around and I walk toward the light, it's a very different experience. I can see where I'm going and I'm not bumping into things and stumbling over things. The light shines and we can see a little bit. And that's kind of how Epiphany is. The light shines and we can see a little bit. Then Isaiah says, lift up your eyes and see. When the light shines, we can see differently. We can see what other people don't see. That's where we talk about dreams and vision. The light shines on us and we can see things. Isaiah talks about, look, nations are coming to you. They are bringing their sons and their daughters and their wealth. Now, that isn't happening. But he's saying, it's going to happen. See that your future is bright. I remember several years ago, I went to a seminar on new church starts. And it was up in South Bend, Indiana. And we went to a site that was really just an empty warehouse. And we heard the minister talk about his vision for the church. And there was nothing there, it was just an empty warehouse. And he walked us through the area. And he said, now here's the youth room. And here are the ping pong tables, and here are the video games, and here are the billiards tables, and here's the basketball hoop. And I thought, there's nothing here. And he could see this. And he'd say, and here's the children's department, and here's the wall that's really a fish tank that separates the nursery from the preschool. And I thought, there's nothing here. But he could see it all. And I thought, here's vision. Here's vision. Lift up your eyes. See your future now. Have this hope. This is what God is giving. And then Isaiah says, arise and shine. Arise. You see the vision. You see the people coming to you. Now get to work. Now get to work and make this vision a reality. Start to rebuild the city because you know it's going to work. What epiphanies do for Isaiah and Paul is say that God is on our side, that the universe is benevolent. We can see the universe as hostile to us, as indifferent to us, or benevolent and caring. And these epiphanies of God say the world is benevolent. Now, I believe that probably no American understands Epiphany better than Martin Luther King Jr. He understands the darkness. He understands the darkness that covers the earth and covers the people. He understood segregation and Jim Crow and lynchings and separate but equal. He understood that darkness that separated people. The darkness that Paul talks about that separated Gentile and Jew. King understood the darkness. And then he understood the light shining in the darkness. Your light has come. For him, the light was what he called the American dream. He said, America is a dream of brotherhood, of peoples coming together. It's a dream of black and white and male and female and all nationalities coming together. It's a dream that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal and are endowed with by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That was, for him, the light shining in the darkness that attracted people. And then he goes on to say in his I Have a Dream speech, the light shines in the darkness, but I see what other people don't see because the light has enabled me to see more. You know, and in that beautiful speech, we all know parts of it. You know, he talks about, I have a dream. I have a dream that on the red clay of Georgia, grandchildren of slave owners and grandchildren of slaves will play together. I have a dream today. I have a dream that in Mississippi, where people live in the sweltering heat of persecution, where people live in the sweltering heat of oppression, that one day that land will become an oasis of fellowship. I have a dream today. I have a dream that in Alabama, where the governor's mouth is dripping with racial slurs and epithet and hatred, that little black boys and girls will play with little white girls and boys. I have a dream today. I have a dream that my 4 children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that every valley will be raised up and every hill be made low. King had a dream. People couldn't see it, but he could see because the light had shined. And then he goes on to say, now we've got to get to work making that dream a reality. Arise and shine. He calls it creative protest. And parts of the creative protest were realizing that all the world is in this together. What happens in India affects the United States and vice versa. We need to get to work seeing that we are all one in the world and there are no walls between us in the world. We need to get to work realizing that one race is not superior to another. We need to get to work having our morals and our ethics catch up to our science and our technology. He said, the means by which we live has outstripped the ends for which we live. And we need to bring morals and ethics to our technology. And the creative protest is to start to live into the dream as if it were true. So start to live as if separate and equal isn't right. Start to live as if separate restrooms are not right. Start to live as if separate divisions in the buses are not right. Start to live as if the vision is true. I think King understood Epiphany very well. I think he understood citizenship very well. And I think he understood discipleship very well. On January 15th, he would have been 90 years old. We celebrate Martin Luther King Day in 2 weeks. When Colleen and I were talking about what do we preach on in January, we thought, well, it's Martin Luther King Day in January. Why don't we preach in January on Martin Luther King Jr.? His understanding of discipleship and his understanding of citizenship. So this Sunday was his vision. Next Sunday is his understanding of redemptive suffering, redemption. The following week is his understanding of justice, and the final week is his understanding of nonviolence and peace. King understood the epiphany of God, that God comes to the darkness to bring light so that we can see the love of God, the justice of God, the mercy of God, the forgiveness of God that others don't see, and that we can arise and shine and help others see that. Epiphany is about what we see of God's love and tearing down walls between people, and God's inclusion of all, and our getting to work making that a reality. May it be so. Amen.